Hello and welcome to the Rolling With series. I'm Will, and with me is the living masterpiece herself,
Sarah.
And today we're looking at Dominion Renaissance. Sarah, tell us a bit about this game.
All right. Renaissance is a big expansion that introduces coffers and villagers, projects, and artifacts. It also includes coin tokens and player mats. All right, the thing people love the most about this expansion, coffers and villagers. Tell us a bit about that.
So, coffers is very similar, in fact, pretty much identical to what we saw in guilds. Basically, the token goes out. If it's on the coffer side of the mat, you can spend it, and it's a coin. Now, the difference is on the villager side of the mat, if you take off the token, it's an action. So it allows you to instantly have combos, even if your cards don't allow for that.
Exactly. And it just really opens the play space, because I know a lot of people are just like me who get really frustrated when you're like, okay, I'm trying to buy enough cards that give extra actions, but the really cool cards are the ones that don't give actions, but you want to play them all. Well, now you can if you're able to get the villager stockpile, and then you get a whole hand of cards with no actions. Well, you can play them now. And it just really opens it up to have really fun combinations. And in a lot of respects, just like guilds, it speeds up the game, which I know a lot of people appreciate, because sometimes Dominion can drag on. But if you have the money you need, and you have the action economy that you need, and you can get those cards working, well, the game's just going to go faster.
Yes, it gives you that big game experience that stretches out, gives you the wow factor, gives you neat pieces to play with.
Right.
Without overstaying a welcome.
Yep.
So
exactly. All right, now projects are another horizontal card that is like events. You have 2 per game is what they recommend. Like events, you can pay for them, but you only pay for them once, and then you put your cube color on it
to show that you've
that you've done it, and then you get an effect. Usually it's once per turn, and it usually says when, like at the beginning of your turn, draw a card. So you have this little extra benefit that you've invested in. You've invested in this project that gives you this return, and so it's a nice effect that you can have going forward every turn.
However, some projects can be double-edged swords, because there might be a trashing mechanism involved in it that you probably don't want to continuously do, even if the effect is really good, especially if the project doesn't give you a may option.
Some of them are just, you do this. Gain this, trash this, whatever it is, do this. And that can be a double-edged sword. So you have to be careful how and when you invest in these projects, and you can't uninvest. So once you've done it, it's done.
Because everyone knows you must suffer for your art. Right?
Honestly, true.
Yeah.
True. Okay, and the last really fun thing that this expansion adds is artifacts. There are 4 different cards, and when you play a card, you gain control over the associated artifact, and you get its benefit for as long as it stays in front of you. And it always says when it triggers. But if someone else plays the same card, it now belongs to them. So there's this small fighting over a benefit. And it's nice because it's not an attack and that's going to do something terrible to somebody. But it is, on the other hand, stealing something away.
Yeah, it's like all the members of a terrible appreciation society, where I really, really enjoy that particular artifact, and like, oh, really? And while they're talking to someone else, you steal it, because it's all about this pride thing, and yes, and you appreciate finer things in the Renaissance.
So it does add an interesting dynamic to the game, where there's attack cards that are much more aggressive, and this can be that kind of annoying thing. Is like, oh, I really wanted that on my next turn, but you stole it, so I'm not gonna be able to use it. Because even if you play it, some of them do have a immediate effect when you gain it, but a lot of them, the bigger effect is when it starts as your turn, that you've got it already, that you've been able to hold on to it for a whole round. Not that you can really do anything to stop anybody from playing it, but
Yeah. It's all the sweeter when you steal it back from someone else.
Yep. So those are the main things that this expansion introduces and adds to Dominion. And so who we recommend this for is actually almost anybody. I mean, I wouldn't use it to introduce Dominion to somebody. But if you are a beginner Dominion player and you've played some Dominion, or if you're an advanced Dominion player, anywhere in between, this is a good expansion for opening up the play space and just making things easier to do. Granted, that's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but for a lot of people, it's going to be lessening some of that anxiety.
Yes, this would be another good expansion as a first expansion. So if Prosperity is a little too big and too grand for you, then this is kind of a sub down version of it where it's toned down a little bit, but you still have the magnificent big plays, and it opens you up and prepares you for more engaging intermediate play with other expansions.
Right. And it's also good for mixing in with other expansions, because if you add in a couple of those villager and coffer producing cards, again, that'll open up the play space with any other expansion that might be a bit more closed.
Well, that will be it for our Golden Age. Remember to check out the other video where I perform the flavor text of Dominion Renaissance and enjoy that for what it is. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can reach us on the various social media platforms at
Rolling with Two, that's TWO. We are on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And on YouTube, please like and subscribe.
And Sarah, you truly are a masterpiece.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
And because of that, I'm inspired to say we are Rolling with Dominion.